Okay, sorry, let's take a look at our model. Let's take a little tour of it. So this is from the email. There's some changes you want to make. Some of these changes we talked about last Friday. So I think we incorporated everything in here. So this gives you a visual reference to see if, before you actually print this out, what it might look like. Because one on Friday that I gave to you, printed off my printer, wasn't quite right. So we corrected some of that stuff. So anyways, increase the width of the ring at the top of the bobber. We're going to use that as the top. So what we did, in fact, let's just go all the way up to the top of the model and take a look at this. We have our right sketch in here. This is where everything lives, all the references for the rest of our model. And this is kind of the way it was before. So we had a 5-degree draft angle in here. We're going to go ahead and get rid of that, but we're still going to keep the reference geometry just in case we need to use that again. You never know. But the distance here between the bottom and the top is 15 millimeters. I made that 12 for the new one. And this is going to be part of that revolved surface. So this is actually, this line over here is going to be like the new bottom of the model instead of that diagonal line. So that way it kind of lifts up the core a little bit when we do that. But that's how that was put together. And of course this is the critical distance in here between the floor, which is going to be represented by this point in here, really close to that center line in here, but it's not quite there. It's going to be 22.2 millimeters from the very bottom of the paw. So that's going to be a critical point in here. That's going to represent that point in here too. So when we line up that latch core in here, we're going to make sure we have those references in there. So that's the way that starts. We have that right sketch. I put in a split plane, so our split plane now is going to be in the bottom of the bevel, as you call it, or the rings of Saturn, for lack of a better word. The bevel is probably a better term. We're going to put that parting line right there down at the bottom of that. So then we did our base revolve, and if I go ahead and roll that back a little bit, that's just our basic revolve feature. It's a pretty simple one. And then we did a revolved cut on the bottom, so that's where the cut looks like in the bottom. So again, there's that right sketch in here. You can take this dimension in here. If you want to change that a little bit, instead of making that 12, make it 11 if you want to do that. That kind of moves that down a little bit, and also moves down the core too. So let me know what you would like to do there and which one looks better. So that provides a little bit more red in the bottom. And yeah, it shows that up a little bit more. So let's go ahead and roll that down a little bit. Now we insert the core. So that comes to our second one. Increase the height of the ring at the top of the bobber. I would like to see the top ring extend twice as far as the previous part. So this is what it looked like previously. And this is my MakerBot Replicator G. And just give you another visual reference without having to open up another model in SolidWorks. That's what you saw on Friday. So now it's probably a little bit taller. Maybe not quite as tall, but we could change this reference in here for that right sketch instead of making it from what it is now 11 back to 12 again if we want to do that. And then we can go ahead and if we go ahead and rebuild this model, we're right-clicking this and then edit feature. And go ahead and locate part, go to the green check mark. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and realign these points in here. If we go ahead and go to the green check mark, now with that 11 degree or 11 millimeter change that we made, we can go ahead and re-reference that. So yeah, now they're together. And sometimes you have to do that a couple times. Sometimes it doesn't iterate right. But those 2 points in here from the 2 different sketches should be the same. And that's what we have to do when we insert a part into another part. So that's that guy. And we're going to go ahead and minimize all this stuff so we see what we're working on. We combined the features in here. So we combined both the core, the latch core, and the revolve feature for the bobber. We put that together. And then we wanted to make this a little bit thicker in here. So that goes to your first question up here. You want to make it 4 1/4 inches on the top, increase the width of the ring at the top of the bobber. So this is being defined by a couple different things because it's going to be 4 1/4 down in the bottom of here, down in the bottom of the latch core. We have a draft angle in here, a 1 degree draft angle in here that we have to consider. So when it gets up to the top, it's not going to be 4 1/4. It's going to be something much less. And then something else we need to consider up here is this edge down here. When we extrude that, that too has to have a draft angle on it. I think I put a 2 degree draft angle on it. So we had to take both of those in consideration. And there's that 4 1/4 dimension in there that you see in there in order to put that together. So actual core extension on here on the top, the edge of that is actually this piece in here. Because we want to make sure we got the draft angle on the outside, not on the inside. So double check that when you print that, just make sure that that fits. So the latch screw hole, we want to make sure we put that in the middle. So that's a little bit different. The core had that hole in there initially. We want to make sure that we have a draft angle in both directions on that. So this is not going to be dependent upon the core. This is going to be something that's going to be dependent on a revolve feature for the bobber. And if we go ahead and cut that loose and take a look at that, cut that right in the middle, now you can see that. Let me try to get those sketches on the edge. So this is where the parting plane is going to be. You can see that in here. So you want to make sure that when we put in that screw hole in here, that it's going to draft open. It's going to get more open as we go to the top from that parting plane. It gets more open as we go from the bottom. But the dimension here should be 3.25 for the radius. And if we go up here to measure, which is going to be 6.5 inch or 6.5 millimeters for the diameter. So that works out. It just drops up and down. I think it's a 2-degree draft angle. Another critical measurement is going to be between here, that surface in here, and this one. It's supposed to be 11 millimeters, which we have in here. We also want to make sure that between this surface and what's going to represent the very bottom of our bobber, which is going to be these 2 points down here, that should be 22.2 millimeters too, which it is over here in the purple box. So we'll get rid of that, and I think that's pretty much it. We have our parting line in here. I don't think I have it showing, so let's go ahead and show that parting line. So there's our parting line. We could do a draft analysis, just make sure everything's coming out okay. And our parting plane is going to be this plane in here. We deliberately put that in here. So again, everything on top is going to be green. Yellow might, if we reduce our draft angle down a little bit. This doesn't mean it's an error necessarily, but it might have difficulty extracting. But I borrowed some of the draft angles from the pop head. So if it works for the pop head, it should work here too. But right now it's got a 3-degree draft angle. We put in a 2. It resolves that stuff a little bit better. That 2-degree draft angle I have on that, the width on the top of the bobber here, now turns green. And we can see down here too where our screw hole is going to be. It's green on top, red on the bottom, which is what we want. And everything is red on the bottom there too, so that looks pretty good. So there's the bobber model. I'm going to go ahead and rebuild that. I'm going to take off the split. I'm going to take off that section tool, and probably take off the draft analysis too. And that's what we have. So I'm going to go ahead and send you the STL on this. Again, all these values can be changed as I showed you. Let me know what the next set of values are going to be, and we'll get you a third iteration.